Namaste guys, ChristianRLong, Life Enhancement Consulting, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Wednesday evening. It's about 8 o'clock p.m. here in Denver, Colorado. About 8:15. Just finished a day of healings, day of meetings, and day of writing the weekly newsletter that if you are on Facebook right now, right below this video, you'll see the weekly newsletter that we put our blood, sweat, and tears in. Today we're covering about God, which is one of my favorite topics, one of the topics that I will be barely able to scratch the scratch of a scratch surface in this incarnation, but it's always fun trying. Shoot for the highest first. Lorena, namaste. And many of you have been wondering, you've been sending me private messages, you've been emailing me, so I appreciate that, checking up with me and saying, Christian, where are you? Where have you been? Where are your videos? What is going on? Well, a lot has been going on and not a lot has been going on. Okay? And what do I mean by that? So, as you guys probably know, if you've been watching the streams for any period of time, for about 5.5, almost 6 years, almost daily, I've been doing live streams. Almost daily, live streams. What are we typically talking about? We're talking about energy healing, meditation, and practical spirituality. Those are the things that I have focused my energy and attention on for the past 2 decades. And so for 5.5 years, Jose, Atman Namaste, we did these streams originally on Periscope, then on Facebook, and then we would upload the videos to YouTube. So we have a pretty active YouTube channel. Definitely go to YouTube, ChristianRLong, subscribe, and then whenever I post something on YouTube, you get an instant notification of it, which is always fun. And so the streams would be anywhere from typically 15 minutes to 45 minutes, and then back in the day, about 3 years ago, some of the streams would be an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And there was one time that I took a break. I think I took about a 10-day break from posting live streams. And I said, I just want to experiment. What will happen if I remove myself from video, social media for 10 days? And I did that, and something interesting happened. Nothing. I slept better. I felt better. I wasn't aware of so much things coming from my external environment. My relationships with people improved. There was less drama. It was very, very interesting. I couldn't quite pinpoint what was going on. So, as soon as I got back onto social media, 10 days later from that break, I felt stinging, hot, piercing connections to me. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, that's all in your head. That can't be real. That's impossible. How can you being on social media cause that kind of physical effect of feeling hot, stinging pokers in your system? Welcome to the live stream, Enk. I hope I said that correctly. I'll say it nice and short because I don't want to butcher your name. Welcome to the stream. And so, being an empath, a person who is sensitive to subtle energies, I could feel everybody connecting to me at the same time when I went back onto social media. And it was a bit much. Now, as an energy healer, as a person who is committed to exchanging energy between me and other people, and from other people to me, I tend not to shield myself, I tend not to block myself, I tend to be very open. That's kind of my modus operandum of how I am with everybody, friends, family members, strangers, enemies, etc. In general, I'm open to everybody. So that was a really good insight for me several years ago. And now, the past couple months, I've had some interesting things happening, not necessarily in my business, my healing practice, but more my professional or my personal life, my relationship life more specifically. And I just realized that there's a tendency for people to be unable to control their thoughts and their words under certain circumstances. Have you ever been super mad, super upset, or even fearful of something, and what comes out of your mouth maybe is not the holiest of the holies. Maybe it's not the kindest, sweetest thing to come out of your mouth when you're angry or when you're fearful, right? So the same thing can happen with spiritual practitioners, right? Spiritual practitioners, They're not perfect people. They're people that are working towards perfection through their spiritual practice, through their meditation practice, maybe even through their particular religion that they subscribe to. And so during this time of the past month or so, I just noticed this huge upheaval of energy, this huge upheaval of misunderstandings in my personal life and in my relationship life. And I thought to myself, well, I can do energy work on it. I can heal the situation. I can remove the negative thoughts, the negative emotions, the inaccurate perceptions, because I've been trained in how to do that over the past 15 years. But at this particular moment in my life, and this time in my life, I was like, you know what? Don't want to do it. Don't feel like cleaning the energy. Don't feel like blessing the energy. So I was having resistance to that. So what did I do next? Instead of doing the actual practice of cleaning the energy and blessing the energy, I simply removed my energy. I removed my energy. And I noticed by removing my energy, it was a much better experience. I was able to calm my energy body. The other people were able to calm their energy bodies. Harmony was able to be restored. And life was able to go on for each and every person. So in the past, whenever things were going on in my relationship life, I had a tendency to go onto social media to do my live streams and to talk about those things. Like as they were happening, not after the fact, but as they were happening. So what do you think that did? Did that energize the situation, or did that cleanse or de-energize the situation? It energized it. It made it more complicated. It made it more difficult. It made it more, chaotic and dramatic. So I just tried a different approach this time. And it was good. It was good having this 3-week break. It's sometimes challenging. I've been traveling so much this year. Getting on planes and being in airports and being at retreats and being around good cell phone reception, bad cell phone reception. So it's been kind of a challenging balance of like, when am I going to have time to jump on and do a stream while I'm driving, or do a stream while I'm in the middle of nowhere, or do a stream while I'm on my meditation practice. Jenny, I'm a namaste, right? So I was trying to find that balance, but the past 3 weeks have been very, very good. I've been able to unplug. I've been able to disconnect. In fact, I removed Instagram and Facebook from my phone. I recently reinstalled them, but it was funny because I kept saying over the past couple of days, I might as well jump on and do a live stream. I might as well jump on and do a live stream. I might as well jump on and do a live stream. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I don't have the Facebook app on my phone to actually do a live stream. I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow came, same thing. I was like, I'll do it tomorrow. Same thing, I'll do it tomorrow. And then after, about a week of saying, I'll do it tomorrow, I decided tonight, why not jump on, connect with you guys, Steven, Atma Namaste, and Lisa, Atma Namaste, and see how you guys are doing. To connect with you, to share with you, to bond with you. It's very interesting because have you noticed if there's a certain person you follow on Facebook, if there's a certain celebrity or teacher or guru or someone that you follow on Facebook or on YouTube, or maybe a Netflix series where you binge watch episode after episode after episode, there comes a point that you start to feel connected with those kinds of people. You start feeling like you're part of their life. Even though you've never met them and they've never met you, there's this bond that takes place. And so I've noticed that over the past 5.5 years of doing these live streams on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube, is that a lot of the people that jump onto the live streams, they'll jump on, they'll make a comment or two, we'll have an exchange, they'll jump off. But if they do that dozens and dozens and dozens of times over the years, you have a tendency to feel like you know them. You feel like you're close with them, even though it could be worlds apart. Like I have people who watch the live streams that are in Australia, the east coast of Australia, which is 16-hour time difference from Denver. But some of them are my clients, some of them are my friends, and there's this level of connection, even though we're so far apart from one another. But how many of us have friends and family members who we see on a daily basis that we don't feel any connection to? We don't feel warmth, we don't feel sweetness, we don't feel tenderness from those people. So I just wanted to jump on and connect with you guys this evening. Not saying we're going to be doing the streams every single day, but the streams are a form of service. as part of our recommendation from our teacher, Grandmaster Chola Koksui, the modern founder of Pranic Healing and Arhatic Yoga. And he recommends that every Arhatic Yoga practitioner do at least a bare minimum of 3 hours a week of service. And that service can be anything. It doesn't have to be jumping onto live streams and giving spiritual talks or energy talks or doing healings. It can be many, many, many different things that you're taking a part of your time and selflessly giving it to another person or persons, and your Atma Namaste, to benefit and alleviate their suffering in some way, shape, or form. So we can all do that for each other. And I've been doing a lot of contemplation about God. Now you would think, wait a minute, haven't you been doing this work for 20 years? Granted. But do you agree that there are levels of truth? There are levels of understanding. There are levels of experiential knowing to something. So like your perception of God as a 5-year-old is different than your perception of God as a 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 50-year-old, right? Your perception changes. It expands, hopefully, and it deepens, hopefully. Avani, Atma Namaste. So I started reading the Bhagavad Gita that was recommended by one of the masters in pranic healing at the 21-day spiritual vacation I did a couple months ago in the Catskills of New York. And this particular version of the Bhagavad Gita, which is 18 chapters. Ted, Atma Namaste, good to have you on as always. The Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters, and it talks about, it's a commentary or a discourse between Lord Krishna, the embodiment of God, and Arjuna, the greatest warrior of the greatest archer of his generation. And it's the discussion of, should he fight the battle and kill people because killing is wrong, or should he place his bow and arrow down and walk away? And that's basically 18 chapters is the discussion. But the Bhagavad Gita is a 5,000-year-old story. And in it contains tremendously deep teachings and practices, all for the purpose of becoming one with God. And each chapter has different language, has different stories, has a different lesson or lessons. But at the end of the day, it's all pointing back to connect to the higher self and connect to God. Connect to the higher self and connect to God. Connect to the higher self and connect to God. Chapter after chapter after chapter. And if you look at any holy book, any scripture from any of the major religions, it's all saying the same thing, essentially. Right? Essentially, the words are different, the stories are different, the metaphors are different, the time periods are different, but at the end of the day, it's all pointing back to God. It's all pointing back to God. So that's just been a really interesting experience reading this book, digesting this book. I typically read a chapter a day, digest it, do my best to understand it, do my best to apply it, which is really the takeaway from any spiritual teaching or any kind of teaching. It's one thing to know something, right? The throat chakra absorbs information, whether it's through the eyes, whether it's through the ears, whether it's through your experience of doing that thing, right? But until you embody it, moment by moment by moment, until you live it, you can't really experience it. Marvin, Atma Namaste. I use a really gross example that I think people can relate to, adults can relate to and understand. It's like you can read every book imaginable about what an orgasm is, right? You could read 100 books detailing and describing all the physiological happenings of an orgasm, all the psychological happenings of an orgasm. You can talk to 100 people, you can interview 100 people, right? All of these things, but just because you studied it, just because you read about it, just because you know it, doesn't mean you've experienced what that's like to have an orgasm. So it's the same thing with these great spiritual books and spiritual teachings and spiritual teachers, is that they're all pointing towards God, using the languages of the time, the metaphors of the time, the people of the time, right? They're all pointing to God. And if you just get stuck with arguing about the fingers, you miss where the fingers are pointing. So you never really have an experience of God. And that's what a formal, in my opinion, that's what a formal meditation practice helps a person achieve, is that experiential understanding. You can have a theoretical understanding of God. That's good. That's a start. But having an experiential understanding of God, and an understanding of stillness, and an understanding of unconditional love, and an understanding of wisdom, right? That's where you become a different human being. That's where you transform. And as I was writing today's newsletter, I was looking up the dark letters of Mother Teresa in the 50s, where she was questioning her faith, where she was questioning God, where she was questioning the purpose of everything that she was doing in Calcutta, right? She was trying to alleviate the suffering of those who were sick, those who were deranged, those who were dying in the streets of Calcutta. And there came a point in her service to humanity that she started to question it, like the same zeal she had for connecting to God, the same zeal that she had of looking at, these men and women, these boys and girls as children of God, was starting to fade. And she was questioning. She's like, what's the point of all of this? Why am I even here? And it's interesting because she would look at other people and she would get a sense that that person is loved by God, that that person is protected and provided for by God, but she felt alone. She felt isolated. She felt abandoned by God, right? So her faith was being tested. So it's we talked a little bit about that in the newsletter this evening. So I don't claim to have the highest, most accurate knowledge of God, not even by a long shot. I'm still a baby on the path of self and soul realization. But as I continue to meditate on God, and as I continue to do my very, very best to transcend the duality of life, my experience of God is expanding, which is really cool. Because when you have duality, when you have pleasure and pain, when you have good and bad, when you have happiness and sadness, you're still living in the plane of duality, right? You're not transcending that duality. Jose, Atma Namaste. You're not transcending that duality and going to the place of God. Everywhere is God and everything is God, right? But we suffer because we feel pleasure, right? We feel pleasure. Something's good. Like we're eating something good, right? So one part of us is enjoying the experience. Another part of us is fearful that the food will be taken away, or the pleasure of the taste will be taken away, right? So while on one level we're experiencing pleasure, simultaneously we're experiencing displeasure in the eating of the food. And if we have too much food, it's not pleasurable. If we don't have enough food, it's not pleasurable. So we're constantly in this swaying back and forth between pleasure and displeasure, between pleasure and pain, between joy and sadness. We're constantly vacillating like this all the time. But with Buddhism, the Lord Buddha talks about the path of moderation, the path of righteousness, the path of the Tao, which is the razor's edge, which is being in the center of going up towards God, being in alignment with God, transcending the good or bad, transcending the pleasure or pain. And that's not easy to go to, right? Because what are we typically doing in our incarnation? We're either running towards pleasure or we're running from pain. But what would it look like if we transcended both? Right? Like, think about that. What would it look like if we transcended both pleasure and pain, happiness and sadness, right and wrong, good and bad? Interesting, right? So I'm not saying I'm there by any stretch of the imagination, but as I continue to meditate on it, Angela, namaste, as I continue to meditate on it, as I continue to become aware of it, it has a transformative effect, and it has a expanding versus a contracting effect. So it's really profound. So Grandmaster Cho Koksui says, what you meditate on, you become. So, if you meditate on fear or things that you're afraid of, what do you experience more of? Fear. If you meditate on things that make you stressful, what do you experience more of? Stress. If you meditate on things that make you joyful, happy, serene, what do you experience more of? Those things. So if you want to expand yourself to the highest degree, what do you meditate on? The formlessness of God. Right? Wouldn't that make sense? If you meditate on a point, you become the point. If you meditate on no point, you become infinite. So again, it's moving past the theory of God and the intellectual understanding of God and moving more towards the experience of God. And to the best of my understanding, that starts in the heart. So as the heart, as the heart becomes more activated, as the heart becomes more developed, a person's ability to experience God increases. It was interesting, as I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, the commentary by Satchitananda, he talks about the sole purpose is to stay in your peace. The sole purpose is to stay in your peace. Because everything in life, the ups and downs of life, challenge our peace. The difficult and challenging people in our lives challenge our peace. Our own blind spots, weaknesses, limitations, negative programs from our past challenge our peace. But if you meditate on peace, what do you become? Right? And it's not an intellectual understanding. It's like, peace, got it. Like, if you read a book on peace, would you necessarily have peace? Becca, namaste, good to have you back on. Right? If you read about peace, would that mean that you are peaceful? Just like if you read a book on quantum physics, does that make you a quantum physicist? Not necessarily. Because you have to have the intellectual understanding, but you also have to have the experiential and intuitive understanding. So we can read about peace, which is good, which is one level of truth, but we can also meditate on peace. We can practice awareness of peace. And here's the big takeaway. This is the end-all be-all takeaway, if you will, for tonight's talk, is everything and anything that you are looking for is within you. So the peace that you're looking for is not in the external world. Why? Because the external world is always changing. You have a good job, you just lost your job. You have a lot of money in your bank account, you lost a lot of money in your bank account. You live in a beautiful house, you got evicted from your beautiful house. You have a great car, your transmission blows out, right? So the physical world is impermanent. Things are always fluxing, always changing, always going from one form to another form. So if you want to have lasting, permanent peace, you have to develop yourself to the point that you anchor yourself. And hala, namaste. You have to develop yourself and anchor yourself to God, to your spiritual teacher, to your higher self, right? The reason we connect to our spiritual teacher is because our spiritual teacher uplifts us to the point that we can just get a itty bitty tiny grasp on our higher self, right? And then we strengthen that connection between our little self and our bigger self, our lower self and our higher self, our incarnated soul and our higher soul. And then once we have a high degree of merging and oneness between the two, it's much, much easier for us to become one with our spiritual teacher and ultimately one with God, right? It's all a stepping stone. It's a progression. So that is the biggest takeaway that I'd like to share with you guys in a greater realization that I've come to over the past 20 years of my spiritual practice. First with Transcendental Meditation under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and then under Pranic Healing or Hatha Yoga with Grandmaster Chola Koksui, is that the power is within us. Everything that we are seeking, anything that you can imagine, is within us. It's within. It's not without. But you can understand that intellectually. But have you gotten it experientially? And then if you've gotten it experientially, there are levels and levels and levels and levels and levels of that experience. Make sense? I remember one of the masters in pranic healing said many years ago that Grandmaster Chola Koksui said, your greatest, deepest, most powerful, most expanded meditation doesn't even reach the lower Buddhic plane of consciousness, right? And there's levels of consciousness, right? Just like there's levels of enlightenment. You're not in complete darkness and ignorance, and then one day you just open your eyes up and you're fully illuminated and enlightened. There's degrees. It's like not an on-off switch, but a dimmer switch. So he was saying, I think this is a general statement, that your best meditation doesn't even reach the lower Buddhic plane of consciousness. So if that's the case, how many more levels are there? How many other experiences are there? It's really quite amazing when you not only think about it and meditate on it, but you start to experience it. It starts to be, it's weird, it starts to be enlivened in your physiology. It starts to be enlivened in your consciousness. And guess who helps with that? Your spiritual teacher. Your spiritual teacher helps to awaken the latent qualities within you, the dormant aspects within you, so you can be empowered to experience God on a much, much higher level. So I hope that explains a little bit about where I've been the past 3 weeks, which, thinking back, I think this is the longest time I've not done a live stream since I've been doing live streams. And I've been doing live streams for about 5.5 years. So, kind of an interesting experience. But it's been a great year. I'm super, super grateful. We're more than halfway done with the year. I remember in December of every year, I sit down and I do my planning for the following year, right? I sit down and I go, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to have this experience. I'm going to do this in my meditation practice, right? And I've been doing that for years. And it's a good thing that the pranic healing masters help us with that planning process. So right around the end of December, we do cleansing of letting go of the previous year, planning and blessing the upcoming year. And it's been amazing. So this past December, I remember sitting down and writing out the things I want to accomplish. I have a 365-day calendar right in front of me, and I wrote out all the important dates. I wrote out all the important retreats that I want to go to, and I accomplished every single one of them that I wanted to go to, and then some. Things just kept popping up and happening. I was like, wow, all right, guess I'm going to that retreat. All right, I guess I'm going to that retreat. I didn't have that retreat in the calendar. So it was really, James, namaste, good to have you on. It was really, really inspiring. It was really transformative to have that feedback month to month to month of like, wow, I accomplished what I wanted to in that month. I accomplished what I wanted to in that month. I accomplished what I wanted to in that month. And the year isn't over yet. I don't have any plans on going to any official pranic healing or hatha yoga retreats until the end of February or the beginning of March of 2020. I'm going with a good friend to Joshua Tree at the end of this month. So the end of September, I'm going for a weekend trip with my buddy to Joshua Tree to call the place called Bhakti Fest. I've never been. I've heard about it. He's never been, but always wanted to go. And it was a toss-up between going to Bhakti Fest, which is in Joshua Tree, about 2 hours from LA, or going to Mount Shasta, which is about 2 hours north of San Francisco. But I weighed the pros and cons and decided to go to Bhakti Fest. Thanks, James. I appreciate that. Yeah, Joshua Tree, for those of you who do not know, so Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui was a master at synthesizing different spiritual practices, schools, healing techniques into a system, a codified system. That's where his genius really shined. So there's a reason as to why, Tina, namaste, there's a reason as to why we do what we do with, why do we do this breathing over that breathing? Why do we do this meditation over that meditation? Why do we do this yoga posture over that yoga posture, right? So he was a master at synthesizing different schools and practices. So one of the practices that we implemented in our pranic healing, our hatha yoga practice, is called mental physics. Mental physics was founded by the Mental Physics Foundation in Joshua Tree, California. It wasn't always there. It was in California, and then it moved to Joshua Tree a few years ago. And it was developed by a great, great, great spiritual teacher, Ding Mei Ling, if I remember correctly. You guys might have to correct me on that. But he was a British, I believe he was British, I don't think Australian, a British spiritual teacher who was trained in Tibet. And he was taught a series of exercises that generates a tremendous amount of energy or generates a tremendous amount of prana. Isn't it interesting that Joshua Tree, the whole area, has a tremendous amount of energy because it's sitting on a vortex. So it's like the teacher knew where to have this school that specializes in generating energy. So we're going to be at Joshua Tree, but we're not going to be going necessarily to the Mental Physics Foundation. It's just where the Bhakti Fest is being held. Angela says, what about Greece? Ever been there? I've not been to Greece. I do not have plans on going. That's a weird text message to be getting. So I studied sports psychology in my graduate studies and mental physics, like mental imagery. No mental imagery. Jose says mental physics. So I know the term can be kind of misleading. It's about a series of physical exercises that you do in a certain sequence that generate a tremendous amount of energy within your body. Makes your body physically stronger and able to do more work. So if you ever feel tired, sluggish, worn out, like, oh, I only got 1 hour of sleep, you can get up, you can do the mental physics practice, and all the chakras will start spinning super, super fast, sucking in a tremendous amount of energy, and then releasing a tremendous amount of congestion. So you feel awake, you feel enlivened, you feel like you're ready to party, right? So it has less to do with the mind per se, and less to do with physics, I guess. But that's just the name that they call it. I haven't researched it enough to know exactly why they call it mental physics. Right, the pranic healing retreat is going to be in Greece. I think I know a couple people going to it. I don't have plans on going to it this year. Get it, Angela. Make it happen. James says, okay, cool, I got it, awesome, okay, I got it, yeah, nice, that is good for the next week since I am starting my seasonal job. Yeah, look it up. Mental physics. Very, very powerful. Super powerful. So it's kind of like the two schools of mental physics and pranic healing complement one another perfectly. Mental physics helps you generate a tremendous amount of energy, and then pranic healing gives you the means of where and how to use that energy. Make sense? See how they connect with one another perfectly? If you've never been, it's mine. Nice. So, that being said, do you guys have any other questions, comments, need for clarification before we end tonight's stream? It was good to connect with you guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're filled with light, love, and power. Lots and lots of joy. Hope you're connecting to the higher self and to God, and seeing God in each and every person and each and everything. Even God is in the coffee cup. God is in the shirt. God is in the chair that's supporting your back. God is in every fiber of hair, every molecule of your blood. Thanks. Okay. I should be able to click on that video later. Perfecto. It's funny. I haven't done a stream in 3 weeks, and it seems like I haven't done a stream in like 4 years. I even forgot how to like log on to Facebook on my phone and how to put in the information for putting a stream on. Very strange. We will continue to be happy regardless of external circumstances. Christian Long. Perfect. Yeah, Stephen gets it. I mean, think about really get that for a moment of how powerful that is. That if you can retain your peace, Digley Ming, got it. Think about it, if you can retain your peace during the worst of the worst. Loss, grief, shame, guilt, fear. No matter what those external things you can be still. You can be peaceful. That's power. That's beauty. Because anybody can be peaceful when peaceful things are happening in their life. Have you noticed that certain people, when stress hits them, they crumble? Other people, the same stress hits them and they become invigorated and they hunt for the solution. What's the difference? The external stimuli is exactly the same, but it's the character and purification of the individual. That's what matters. That's why the inner world and your inner work are the most important things. Everything else is, not that everything else is irrelevant, but again, what we said earlier, you ground your consciousness in the self, in your teacher, and in God, then you live in the world. But you don't live in the world looking for validation, looking for good, fuzzy, helpful feelings from other people and other circumstances, because you'll always be looking. I'm not a human, going back home on September 20th. Well, you are a human, and you're the soul, simultaneously. So that's it, guys. For those of you who are in need of healing, as a lot of you have been doing, reach out to me on Facebook, direct message me, go to pretty much the best places, go to ChristianRLong.com and sign up for a healing session right then and there. Area 51. Wait a minute, that's in Nevada. Isn't that in Nevada? It's in Nevada, right? Not Arizona? I knew that at one point. So go to ChristianRLong.com for healing. It's my name, super easy to find. And sign up for a healing session. Wants to be in your video. That's very interesting. Somebody wants to be in the video. I don't know how that works. All right, guys. We'll have an amazing, phenomenal Wednesday night. If you're watching this right now. If you're watching this on Facebook, go below this video. The weekly newsletter has already been posted. Hopefully you guys get a lot of value out of that. And if you get value out of the newsletter, please share it. If you get value out of this stream, please share it. And that's it. Love you guys very, very much. This is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful Wednesday night, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. And Angela says one last thing. I'll have to replay to hear where you've been. I've had that challenge many times recently. Did it with a smile. Had that conversation with Master Merlag and Inner Christianity. That is a great class. You're correct. Very, very correct. Peace be with you as well. Blessings to you guys. Have a great night. Bye-bye.